2,300 horsepower, the new world record for production cars, according to Koenigsegg, who simply doesn't disappoint. While there's still a 3-cylinder option offered, a potent 2.0 liter with 600 horsepower and 600 newton meters of torque, they're also now offering the option of a 5-liter twin-turbo V8, pulled from the Jesko with some alterations, which boasts 1,500 horsepower and 1,500 newton meters of torque. Whichever engine you pick, it's paired with Koenigsegg's new dark matter electric motor. This 6-phase, so-called axial flux motor packs 800 horsepower and 1,250 newton meters of torque from just a 39 kilogram package. With the V8, this means a bonkers 2,300 horsepower combined and an absolutely stupid 2,750 newton meters of torque. Now, within the patent, Koenigsegg describes 3 different powertrains. We're going to look at just one of them here that most closely resembles what is found in the Gemera. So here we have our V8 engine, and in order to connect that to the rear wheels, there is a clutch connecting it to the transmission, then sending that power to the rear wheels. There's also a prop shaft coming from the engine, leading to a clutch connecting it to an electric motor, and that electric motor is then sending power through the front differential, and on either side of that front differential, you have a clutch pack. So this is how the torque vectoring is going to be achieved at each corner, and so essentially if we're going to take a closer look at what's going on inside of this front differential, you have your output shaft coming from the electric motor that is then spinning this shaft right here, and on either side you have a clutch pack, and so you can lock up the clutch pack or have a varying degree of how much pressure you're going to apply to that clutch pack in order to send torque to either the right wheel or the left wheel. Now you can also drive in a mode that allows you to charge up that battery. So for charge mode, there's multiple ways of doing this, but essentially you're going to have your engine connected to your electric motor using this clutch right here, and you could be in neutral, meaning all you're doing is using the engine to spin up this motor and then send that power to the battery pack, or you could also engage this clutch right here, meaning you're driving in rear-wheel drive mode, but also sending some power to this electric motor so that not only are you driving the car, but you're also charging up the battery. Then you have regen mode, and again, this can be done with multiple different modes, but essentially what you're doing is you're going to engage these front clutches, you're going to use that energy and slow down the car using this electric motor and send that power to a battery pack. And then finally we have what I am going to call a nope mode, and this is where you engage all of the clutches fully, so they're all locked up, and this really won't work. So there's one specific driving scenario in which it's theoretically possible for it to work, so we'll go through that. Basically, if your front tire circumference matched with this gear ratio is equal to your rear tire circumference matched with your rear axle gear ratio, well, then it is possible that if you're traveling in a straight line, all of these wheels are rotating at the same speed and moving the same distance, so that means your engine and motor are rotating together and everything is in unison as you're going in that straight line. But the second you start to turn, well, the front axle is going to be rotating at a different speed than the rear axle. It doesn't like that. There's going to be binding happening somewhere in the system. Now, one interesting thing to note is that the dark matter electric motor, the tiny friendly giant, and the HV8 all have the exact same red line of 8,500 RPM. So maybe there is something going on where they are allowing these things to match up in speeds. Worth mentioning also, and what is likely the case for the Gemera as this patent describes, you probably have a different gear ratio for this front axle, which limits the top speed of this electric motor. Meaning at a certain point, I'm just going to make up a number and say like 200, and let's say the car gets to 250 miles per hour. At a certain speed, you're going to disconnect this front electric motor because the gearing would force it to spin too fast. Now, one of the interesting things to note is this version actually had more power than the version announced today if you're going with that 3-cylinder engine, 1,700 horsepower versus just 1,400 horsepower today with the TFG, thanks to just having one electric motor rather than 3. Alright, so then we get to the version of the Gemera which we have today, and so this layout here is not exact or definite, but it is based on a combination of the images that Koenigsegg has shared, as well as this patent which helps describe how the system works. So the big changes being we now have a V8 as an option, we now have a new second version of the Lightspeed transmission, the LSTT, which is describing that extra T is about the added mechanism in which this transmission is now wrapped around the engine in order to send power to the rear wheels. And of course, we have just a single electric motor now rather than three. It is a larger, the dark matter, a larger version of the Quark motor, which they have previously made. So with this, you can have your electric front-wheel drive mode only. Just ignore the rest, the electric motor powering the front using the battery. You could use that electric motor and send that power to the rear wheels and have electric rear-wheel drive. You could use that electric motor, disconnect your engine here, and power all four wheels. With the combustion engine, similar story. So you could use the combustion engine, send that power just to the front. You could send that power to the rear wheels, or you could use that electric motor to assist in sending that power to the rear wheels. Now, the interesting thing here to me, having them introduce this V8 as an option, is it's like, look, if you're gonna spend millions of dollars on a car, you're probably not gonna choose the 3-cylinder option over the V8 option. So to me, this is like, is this a way, here's my little conspiracy brain working, is this a way that they're just trying to eliminate the TFG? Just kind of get rid of it as a concept and say like, look, there's this other engine which makes 900 more horsepower combined, why wouldn't you want that? I mean, you're already spending millions, right? So it's like, the Tiny Friendly Giant is a really, really cool engine, and there's some really neat engineering that goes into it, but this seems to kind of just kill it off because it's like, why would you possibly pick it over the V8? Now, it wouldn't be engineering explained without a little pointless math, so let's talk about the question, how long do you actually have electric boost? So if you have 2,300 horsepower, but 800 of that comes from an electric motor, how much time do you actually have from that electric motor to apply that power? And so if we have a 14 kilowatt hour battery, which this vehicle has, and an 800 horsepower motor, about 600 kilowatts, well, you take 14 kilowatt hours, you divide that by 600 kilowatts, power of your motor, and that gives you just 0.023 hours, or about 84 seconds of electric boost. Realistically, you're not gonna have to worry about running out of electric boost because you have such a massive battery pack, and then you can regen and use the combustion engine to charge up that battery. So realistically, if you need 2,300 horsepower, whenever you put your foot down, it's gonna be there. Thank you all so much for watching.